We all need and want love in our lives, but we've often abandoned or lost ourselves in our attempt to find it. What if self-love is a profound way to connect into a part of yourself that is ready to awaken? What if looking at all the places where you were wounded, all the protectors that you created to try to keep you safe, are ready to reveal something about you and to show you that you are so much more than you've given yourself credit for so long? You are so much stronger. You are so much more than anything that you've given yourself in your smallness, in your fear, in your codependency, in your people pleasing. What if it's time for self-love? As we step into this age of Aquarius, into this new year, 2026, what if this is your year to let go of all that no longer serves you and to love yourself wholly? Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Recover Your Soul podcast and community, a spiritual path to a happy and healthy life. My name is Reverend Rachel Harrison. I started Recover Your Soul after having profound changes in my life from my recovery of alcoholism, codependency, people-pleasing, and control addiction. I was guided to share the tools and principles of spirituality and the Recover Your Soul process to help others transform their lives as mine was transformed. For us to overcome external circumstances, we need to turn the attention to ourselves, focusing on our inner change and healing. Positive results in our lives will follow. Welcome to the Recover Your Soul podcast. I'm Rev Rachel. What a beautiful day. Today is February 14th, 2026. Here in Colorado, the sun is shining. And what I wanted to talk about today is self-love because it's Valentine's Day. And as you're listening to this, you'll have just come out of Valentine's Day, or maybe you're just in a season in your life where you're searching for self-love. You're reflecting on love from the outside. You're reflecting on how you receive love, how you give love. It is a time right now in our lives and in the collective to look at ourselves in a way that is completely new, a new way of being. Through the Recover Your Soul process, we've been working on how to let go of what no longer serves us. We've been learning how to let go of other people's emotions, that responsibility that we feel, and our codependence and our people pleasing to make sure that everybody's okay at the risk of ourselves. There's been a lot of self-sacrifice. We lose ourselves in our attempt to be loved by others. We lose our voice in our fear of saying what we really feel or what we really think. That if we actually stood up and told our truth, and again, our truth is only ours, it's not the truth, which is very fascinating with what's happening in the world right now, that there is no truth to be had. We used to watch the news. It was all the same news by the same three major stations. We all used to get the same paper. And so on some level, it had more neutrality in it, that you could make a discerning decision about what you thought. And maybe there was some views. But now that there's so much information, there's so many voices, so many boxes speaking, that more and more and more we're being invited to recognize that almost anything that you see or hear from anyone, including me, to be honest, I have my own viewpoint, is coming from somebody's lens. And we're being invited more and more to really look at what is the lens that I want to look through. And love has been one of these lenses that we have been indoctrinated and conditioned and told what it is to be loved, what it looks like to love, what are the requirements for love. There's a lot of love that's around exchange. It's not unconditional, it's conditional. And we learned when we were younger what the conditions were. And I think in Recover Your Soul, the piece that I continue, and I know I've said this a lot recently, but I'm really, really, really feeling it. You know, when I got sober 8 years ago, started back in the rooms of AA, went back to Al-Anon, stood in this humble place of saying, I don't know. I've been trying to control the world. I've been trying to take care of everything and everyone. And what it didn't work. My entire life completely imploded and was unbelievably unmanageable in every way, in my relationship, in my children, in my job. I mean, at that time when I got sober in 2018, my entire world was completely imploding. But that's what happens. It's interesting how we can't move into a different direction because we're so comfortable in the okay. We've learned to just be okay with the okay. But when we have a huge implosion, when we have a huge awakening that is from a reckoning, from the wreckage, from the storm, then we look at what does it mean to rebuild? What does it mean to do something different? How can I be different here? How can I learn? I'm ready. Whatever this is isn't working. Well, that was my situation. And a lot of that was around love and self-love and how I was looking for love and what I thought I needed to do to receive love, or the lack of my willingness to receive love, and my fear of being loved, even though I wanted it so bad. Right now, everything feels like it's falling apart, but it has to fall apart, like I said, to be rebuilt. So in Recover Your Soul, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, I recognize that I have been trying to take care of everything, everyone, manage, control, mother, hold it all together. I feel like I'm the only one that can hold it all together, but I am exhausted. I'm exhausted. And no matter how much you may feel like you want to receive, there's a block, there's a heaviness in your heart. I remember doing a workshop at my church, many years ago. And Rich and I were really struggling at the time, like we were for almost 15 years. And my heart was just breaking. And he had us do an exercise where we closed our eyes and really attuned to our body. And what's interesting is that when we're in this fight or flight mode, we don't know how to attune to our body. We can't really touch in with our body because we're so in this highly activated place. And we're very used to not feeling good. We're very used to emotions that are uncomfortable and don't feel good, but instead of letting them tell us something that says, I don't feel good here, there's something to look at, there's some way that I can recognize that there's something to learn or a new direction to take, or a door keeps slamming in my face, but I don't see it, or this relationship keeps harming and hurting and hurting and hurting me, but I keep pushing through. I keep thinking I can do something different, insanity, to do the same thing over and over, looking for a different result. And then we get to this place where we recognize I don't even feel my body. I don't feel my feelings in my body. Not only do I not feel my feelings, but I don't even feel where they are in my body. So here we are in this exercise, and he has us close our eyes. And I think Rich actually was in this workshop. It was a couples workshop. And I closed my eyes and they had me think about how I felt and what love felt like and what it felt to be connected. And I could feel this heavy, it was almost like a steel locked iron gate at my heart. My heart was closed. And what I recognized in that moment where I just gave myself a minute to feel, what I recognized, it was closed both ways. It was closed to receiving and it was closed to giving, because I felt like I had to protect myself. And if you've been listening to the podcast at all, you know that we talk so much about the fact that protecting your heart, protecting yourself is natural. When we actually start recognizing that some of the behaviors or our reactive mechanisms or these things that we do that don't feel good or that aren't leading us in the right direction or aren't helping us ultimately, they're not bad parts of myself. There's no bad part of you. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. But you've learned over time, you've learned through conditioning, you've learned through survival patterns, beliefs, and stories that create a protection mechanism. And I like to really think of them as protectors. And some of this comes from internal family systems, which I have completely taken and turned into my own system, just like everything else that I do. Take what you need and leave the rest. But I think of these protectors as this guard that's within us. And I have this vision of a long corridor inside of your being. And inside of this corridor are these little rooms. And each room is a compartment, a room that holds similar feelings. If somebody says something mean to you, right? Well, maybe you had parents or siblings or friends who said things that were harmful and hurtful to you. And so that particular energy, that particular feeling, how it feels in your body, how it feels in your heart, how it feels in your whole being, moves into that room, becomes a place where that feeling is. And then there's a protector that comes in front. I honestly think of them like Japanese armor, but this entire army that comes with their armor and their swords and their knives and their guns and their weapons and whatever it is that says, I know what we're going to do. That didn't feel good. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to never, ever get in trouble. That's one of my big ones. We're not going to get in trouble. We're not going to do anything that will make it so that you're rejected. And you're going to be super compliant. And you're going to really take care of everybody. That's going to keep you safe. Well, those systems aren't created because we want to go around and be codependent and lose our voice and forget who we are in our lives. They're systems that protect us and keep us in survival. And then at some point, you recognize that that doesn't work. Well, hooray. You are in step one of recover your soul. You've recognized that you're ready for awakening, that this suffering and pain that you're feeling doesn't work for you anymore, that there's something that you want different. Well, it can't be all of them. It can't be the world like we've been trying to do. It's got to be inside of you. And we have to have protectors, but we can give them a different role. And it takes working a spiritual process to learn what we are here to learn on our soul journey, to experience what we have experienced, to learn how to feel feelings. Okay, let's come back to love. We all want to be loved from the very beginning. I have a 1-year-old grandson who I'm going to go and see next week and celebrate his first birthday. And they send me these beautiful pictures of him. And we have one of those digital frames that you can just from your phone. My daughter-in-law can pop pictures on there. I pop pictures on there. And so there's pictures of him. And he's changed so much in the last year. The first year of life is one of the most powerful years of growth of a human being, where our soul comes into this body and we forget who we are. And we really become this model, but there's an essence of love in a baby. And there's a physical reaction that you have as a parent, as a mother in particular. The amount of feel-good hormones that you get around your baby are necessary to give you whatever it's going to take to be up in the wee hours of the morning, to, lose yourself and be completely committed 24 hours a day for the next however many years to raising this child. And ideally, that love, that feeling is reciprocal, that there's an energy that's going back and forth between mother and child, where you smile at them, they smile back. There's this love, there's this connection, there's safety there in the most ideal scenario. Do we do it perfectly? No. Is there always love felt when they're crying in the middle of the night and you're exhausted and you don't know what to do? Maybe not on that level where you're having that high endorphin rush, but inside of your being, there's a love that is beyond condition. It's unconditional. And love does not mean that there aren't boundaries or that you can't be upset or you can't have a feeling that's like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I have a beautiful friend who is solo mothering. She has on her own through artificial insemination had 2 beautiful baby girls. And what an incredible choice that she made to walk away from a whole life that she had before through her cancer journey and recognize that in that experience, she said, I want one thing in life, and that's to be a mother. And this life that I have isn't going to provide that for me. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to have this experience. She's profound. Her journey's amazing. And then she has done these two babies by herself. I mean, literally, like by herself. And when I talked to her the other day, I love that she was honest. I said, "How is it?" She said, most days I am so happy and I'm so grateful. And some days I think, girl, what were you thinking? That's love. That's love. It isn't an idealized, every single moment you think to yourself, this is perfect, everything's perfect. That is fantasy. Lose yourself in fantasy. Nothing except for disappointment will come from that. And it's the same in romantic relationships and friendship relationships and family relationships. If we think that it's supposed to be perfect all the time and that there isn't going to be challenge, you're actually not allowing yourself to have this experience that a soul wants to have in this human body, which is to have this full amount of feelings. That's love. And then as you feel that feeling, your heart doesn't clamp with the protection because you're not having a protector that's showing up saying, don't have that feeling again. You can ask that protector to, instead of being rigid and forceful and shut down, it can give you courage, or it can give you voice, or it can give you the capacity to be with what's complicated. Protectors want to protect, but they don't have to protect from those old systems. They can protect from a more awake, holistic, authentic self. Recently, I was journaling. Many of you know, if you've been listening for a while, I do a lot of automatic writing journaling, and it's been how I began to listen to the voice that I believe is guidance from my guides and my higher self, that I am more and more able to channel and connect with and tune into this other voice that isn't just me. I was in this space of meditation, and I'm so grateful for my incredible mornings that I have where I've been doing this since 2019 when I started my ministerial program, or 19, I can't remember, 19 or 20, started my ministerial program. And I would wake up every morning and I would do spiritual study. And it's just been a practice that I've maintained. So whether it's 5 minutes or 3 hours, I'm so grateful for this calibration in the day. I'm in this state that I can get into now, which I'm so grateful for. I have the music and the candle and the incense and the sun shining in on me. And I was journaling about love, and the guidance that was coming through was around the profound nature of love and how we get caught up in it on this very ego, visceral, transitory, transactional mechanism. I do this for you, you do this for me. You do this, you hurt me, I shut down. It was sharing this larger capacity and the feelings that you feel when you're one with nature, or when you're looking into the eyes of that new baby and you just see the joy that's on their face, the innocence that's on their face. Or when you're in the flow state of a situation, maybe you're doing art, or you're running, or you're cooking something, or you're with family where everyone's joyous and you just have that wholeness, that fullness that doesn't have any attachment. And I was journaling and I was asking about how pure that feels to me, that from the very beginning, I could recognize that aspect of love. And from the very beginning, I was really negatively affected or wounded by especially kids, because I was an only child. It was just me. My mom is very quiet and independent. My dad was gone 90% of the time. And so it was this very sort of calm lifestyle with my mom. And then you go out in the world and kids were mean and they were hard. And I didn't understand. I didn't get why you would talk to somebody like that or treat somebody like that. And so those protectors are being created in me. It's not safe to have friends. Don't put yourself out there. A whole bunch of protections were made during that time around that. And then I had parents who loved me very, very much, but they were not doting on you. You're a little kid and our whole world revolves around what you want as a baby. That's not how that went. They didn't want children. As a matter of fact, my mom told my dad when they got married that she didn't want children, but they heard a voice, a guidance together. It's kind of a wild story, looking out over the stars, and they feel like my spirit called to them and said that I'm coming. They both have this story where they heard this voice or this guidance that said that I was coming. And so then I came. But they continued to have their lives. They didn't decide they were going to be parents and like create this whole world. But I always felt loved by them. But I didn't feel overly attended to by them. I didn't feel doted upon, but I felt deeply loved and supported. But I still made up a whole bunch of stories in my mind about what that felt like and what that looked like, because that's what we do. So I'm having this conversation with my guides around love and asking if I can feel in the depth of my being love like this, and love for myself in my higher self. My true higher self has deep love for myself, unconditional love for myself. But my human self, which is the one that was an alcoholic, the one who tried to control her family, the one who can look at herself in the mirror and have nothing kind to say, the one who sometimes feels intense vulnerability hangovers for being too much with friends or fear of being rejected. We all have these aspects of ourselves. The one who doesn't sometimes feel safe, more so, I don't feel this now, but back in the day, didn't feel safe in that relationship with my husband. That one that was in that workshop with their heart just shut. Who was that? I asked. Who was that? Recover Your Soul is so much more than just this podcast. It is a growing and thriving community, and I want you to be part of it. I want to invite you personally to join us for the first Monday of every month on Zoom from 6 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time for our open support group, or take a deeper dive into the Recover Your Soul process with others on the same path in the Recover Your Soul Circles group coaching with me. And if you want to commit to a weekend that will transform your life, join me in Colorado for a retreat. The events are open on the Recover Your Soul website to learn more and register. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul. And there was such tenderness that came on the page around the complexity of being a human being and how our soul journeys are so powerful because it's through these really complex and painful and tender aspects of how we feel that we can have the contrast to really understand that you cannot understand the value of wholeness and knowing that you're connected to something greater still without the separation. And that this clinging that we do to clinging that we do to a spouse or a child or a friend or a family member, giving to us some thing that we're looking for, some validation of who we are, some promise that it's all going to be okay, that part of us that is suffering because we're clinging to a desire, a thought that we have in our own mind of how we think it should be. It limits us from actually taking in the love that exists, that is available to whatever capacity that person can give. And it also limits us from actually giving the love. And I know many of you relate to this because this was definitely me, which was, it was a lot easier to love than it was to be loved because I was so protected in an entire system that had set up that it's hard and scary to love, that I would get hurt. Well, yeah, we're going to get hurt. It's going to hurt. And then what? What is literally the worst that can happen? Your marriage doesn't stay. Your friendships don't stay. You lose the job. You don't have success on whatever level, whatever that is. You disappoint somebody. You hurt somebody. Yeah, those things happen. And there's always learning and growth and compassion to self that can happen in any of those experiences. Sometimes those experiences open us up to realize that places where we thought that we had to conform or be somebody that we're not to please somebody else and to be who we think that they think that we should be meant that we lost who we were. And so that when any of those relationships didn't work, family, romantic, whatever it was, instead of being a victim in it, you recognize that that was part of your soul's journey to explore and to feel feelings and to be willing to heal and learn and grow and shift and change. You have to have the pain to be able to move into, expand into, to release all of those old limiting beliefs. None of those kids, when I was growing up, were trying to hurt me on a soul level or even in their most knowledgeable level. They were just acting out of their own reactivity, their own pain, their own fear. My parents loved me deeply, deeply, deeply. They were committed to their own individual journey. And you know what? Now that I'm in my life on my own individual journey, I have a lot more respect for the fact that they could provide me with this loving experience. And at the same time, they were not going to diminish their life. They were so independent and willing and wanting to do their own thing, still are, both of them. And then I picked somebody in a marriage who, from the very beginning, loved me so much. He still does. But I also picked somebody who was emotionally not available at that time yet. He's much more emotionally available now than he was then because that was comfortable for me. But you know what? His number one pain in our hard years was that I didn't love him the way that he wanted to be or felt he wanted to be loved. He felt that black, dark part that was covering my heart. That's the most painful thing when we still have some of our difficult conversations. That's what he shares. And I have to forgive myself for that. I have to really work on my own process to recognize that I had my own emotions that I was going through. I didn't feel safe in so many ways. I was going through my own soul journey of beliefs and systems and patterns and all the things that we go through. And I could only give what I had to give at that time. And a lot of the times it wasn't enough. And that's learning for him, right? So the more that we do the Recover Your Soul work, the more that we step into our soul journey, the more we look at healing and awakening and this spiritual path to really recognize that there is no wrong timelines. There's no wrong paths. There's no wrong feelings. They're all opportunities to learn. And through that, the most number one opportunity, the most important thing for you to learn is to love yourself first, to let go of the need of everyone else to give you what is innately yours. Recently, I did an interview with Bodhi, my son Bodhi, who's on his recovery journey, which I'm so grateful for, and the bonus podcast. So if you want to hear that episode, you could go find that on Patreon and Apple Podcasts. And I said something, and I can't remember if it was in the interview, but we were talking about his recovery. And I said, it's important to be kind to yourself. You hear me all the time say, be gentle, be kind to yourself. And he said, it's really hard to do that. Oof. It's interesting how hard we can be on ourselves and how normal that becomes. That's a protector. It's a protector that's trying to keep you from being wounded. But it's sometimes even harder because we love so deeply in that unconditional state with this child that we were up with. Bodhi had colic. So talk about having a baby that cried a lot. And sometimes I didn't know what to do with them, but I never stopped loving him. So I want him to love himself. I want him to not have to have those feelings of despair or criticism or the things that we do to ourselves. But I'm grateful for this journey because this journey has taught me that each of us has to have our own soul's experience. That we have to work out our karma. We have to work out whatever our soul came here to experience. And I know, just like for myself, I know for him, and I know for Alex and my husband and my parents and everybody else and all of you, the wholeness of your soul. Your soul is part of creation. It is a filament. It is a part of the resonance of creation. And it is whole, and it is just incredibly unlimited and beautiful, and it's hard to describe. But it came into this body that is very interesting on all levels, emotionally, spiritually, physically, because it's only in this dense, complicated experience can we have this grand potential to recognize that we are not separate from, but one with, that through the contrast of the pain, we can love. And so I come back to love, loving yourself.
Whether you've been working Recover Your Soul for a while, with me personally doing the modules, or you haven't gotten started yet, I have a free gift for you. I recently created the Recover Your Soul 9-step mini workbook, and I want to offer it to you as a gift. Go to recoveryoursoul.net, click the About Recover Your Soul tab, and put in your email and receive a PDF immediately that's going to help you to begin to understand the steps that will indeed offer you a path to a happy and healthy life, healed and awakened. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul.
In that writing that day, I said, if I know love so deeply, and I feel love so deeply I can feel everybody who listens to this podcast, I can feel you. I want to demonstrate and love you. And I want you to feel that love for yourself. I am here in dedication to love, and not transactional love, but spiritual, holy love. One of the main taglines of Recover Your Soul is to remember your wholeness. To remember your wholeness, that is the love. And the journaling said, you couldn't understand how to help others who are lacking in love if you hadn't also lacked in love. Wow, that's true. Because as I've done this work, that wall, that brick wall, that steel gate wall, whatever it was, has all but fallen away. Every once in a while, there's a little glimmer of protection. If Rich says something that feels old and hurtful, yeah, I get hurt. I have to process that. I've had friends who I thought were friends in the last years or my whole life, but in the last couple of years in particular, the people that I brought into my life and really let in really deeply, who said or did things that feel very harmful. But I don't feel the same way that I used to in protection or resentment. There's something that's really open about thinking, there's something to learn there. And there's compassion and love for myself. And even though sometimes I can look in the mirror, it's so interesting. I don't know if you feel this too. I hope that you can. In the same instant that you can look and have a judgment of yourself, that a higher self can come in and just love and appreciate you for exactly who you are. At one of my women's groups the other night, we were talking about aging and how interesting it is to look at your body in the mirror or your face in the mirror, and how it shifts and changes, and how easy it is to be so hard on yourself instead of to love and appreciate, how these hands that now look like my mother's, got to where they are. And now my mother's hands look like my grandmother's hands. It isn't that you don't care for yourself. It isn't that you don't take care of yourself and love yourself from a place that says, I love me, and I'm gonna start to exercise, or I'm gonna take care of, I'm gonna moisturize, or I'm gonna eat better, or I'm gonna sleep better, or I'm gonna meditate more, not because you want to be loved or accepted from the outside, but because why wouldn't you treat yourself the best that you could? Because you are deserving of it. And the more that we do that, the less that we're needing and wanting our husband to love us in a certain way, our kids to love us in a certain way, our friends to love us in a certain way. And we start to align ourselves and tune ourselves to be able to receive the love that is there as it is. Acceptance is a path to peace is our theme for this year. It goes in there too, to accept and love yourself for exactly who you are. Love is this capacity to be with anything and to be present with yourself through anything, and to be gentle to yourself through anything, and to remember your soul's journey here, and to have a little shift in perception where you begin to be more curious about the things that are happening in your life than to be affected by the things that are happening in your life. And self-love is one of the most important pieces that will allow you then to take in the love that's available to you. And even if you're having a day, like Bodhi said, being kind to myself is sometimes hard, there's something to look at in that. That means that there's more layers of patterns, stories, beliefs that are in there in the third step of Recover Your Soul. And that there's nothing wrong with that. It is the journey of which we are upon. So I pulled a card for us today to finish with from the Divine Feminine, because we are stepping into the time of the Divine Feminine. And whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. The Divine Feminine, Masculine are not an embodiment of male or female. They're aspects of consciousness. And we've been in masculine for a very, very long time, a very, very long time. And we are actually moving astrologically, spiritually into the Divine Feminine. We're moving more into healing, more into compassion, more into collaboration, more into love, unconditional love. So the card that I pulled was the Black Madonna. And it says, Our Lady of the Hermits, I transform pain and suffering into a greater capacity to love. I transform pain and suffering into a greater capacity to love. And I invite you to take this time, which is very profound, that's happening right now. This is the time of shedding the old belief systems, those belief systems that you're not enough, that you can't, that you're not lovable, and to begin to recognize there's something to see, to let go of that's not real, so that you can step into the place that really is curious about your uniqueness, the beauty of who you are. Beauty of who you are through everything you've been through and everything you've done, regardless of what it is. There's something to be learned, and there's love to be had and experienced and shared and given and received. So I encourage you to be gentle to yourself, be kind to yourself, and to witness some of the feelings that you feel when you think about self-love or giving and receiving love, because they're actually giving you information about those limiting beliefs and stories and patterns that are underneath that are ready to be let go. Until next time, namaste.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me and being part of the Recover Your Soul community. If today's episode spoke to you and you'd like to connect with the community even more, I invite you to join us on the first Monday of every month for the free online support group on Zoom. It's from 6 to 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, where I share a little bit more on the Recover Your Soul journey, and then we break into small groups. You can register at recoveryoursoul.net, and if you've registered in the past, be on the lookout in your promotions folder for the reminder email and link.
I'd also love to invite you to listen to the Recover Your Soul bonus podcast every Friday, either as an Apple Podcast subscriber or as a Patreon member. On Patreon, you can become a free member and have access to new episodes for the first week, or you can support this community with the tier that you choose. You can also follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and join the private Facebook group for more connection with this amazing community. I hope you'll visit the website recoveryoursoul.net, and you can sign up for emails so that you can be up to date with everything that's going on, and maybe even join me for a retreat someday. Lastly, I thank you for sharing this podcast and community with anyone that you think that might enjoy or learn from it. I also thank you for giving me 5 stars on any platform that you listen to and writing a review so that others can find the Recover Your Soul community too. Until next time, namaste. The Recover Your Soul podcast and its content is for educational purposes only and is not allied or representative of any organizations or religions. It's based on the opinions and experience of Reverend Rachel Harrison. Recover Your Soul claims no responsibility to any persons or entity for any liability, loss, damage, or cause alleged to be caused directly or indirectly as a result of its use. Applications or interpretations of the information represented herein. Take what you need and leave the rest.